here to join us to talk about the final preparations for the school year and getting ready for an exciting 2024-25 year ahead is Dr. Dania Bazzi, who is the superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District. Dr. Bazzi, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you on as we have an exciting new challenge ahead as we begin school on Monday. As we make these final preparations, what are some of the last-minute priorities that are at the top of the list for West Bloomfield schools as they get ready to head back on Monday?
Well, the main thing is just for our families to be comfortable and feel welcomed as they head into the 24-25 school year. We've had a number of events to help us kind of ease our way into the school year with various orientations and open houses, as well as popsicles with the principals at each of our elementaries. So we just want to make sure that the lines of communication are open and that parents and families and our students know their schedules. Our middle schoolers know how to open their lockers and that they're ready to start the school year on a high note.
Yeah, that's an important thing. I have a lock on some storage at my apartment. I went to go unlock it just recently and missed the code a few times, and I thought, these kids going back to middle school, I don't know if I could join them at this time in my life. So good advice there and some good last-minute training for them. But it's also an interesting time for the school district, too, because we're transitioning back to a K through 5 and 6 through 8 and 9 through 12 format for elementary schools. And that's a big change for a lot of our elementary kids, whether they're staying in their same school or they're moving into a new environment. So what's being done across the district to help ease that transition in this school year?
We've had a lot of activities to help with that transition that started last spring, where students were able to go to the new school that they would be attending, kind of a field trip to be able to meet the principals and the staff. Those activities will continue in terms of our social emotional curriculum as we head into the first 4 days, where we're really trying to establish relationships with our students. We know that to get to the rigor, there has to be relationships, and really laying that foundation in the first couple of weeks is going to be really important. So then we can really dive into the academics and rigor that people have come accustomed to in West Bloomfield School District.
Dr. Dania Bazzi is the superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District, joining us today on the Splash Live as we head back to school in the West Bloomfield School District. And Dr. Bazzi, as we get ready for the first day of school, many school districts across the state have either been considering or have put new policies in place regarding cell phone usage. As that becomes more ubiquitous across all ages of kids in our school districts, what's been the consideration here in West Bloomfield in terms of the role that cell phones play in our kids' lives and how that affects them day to day in the classroom and in our hallways?
Cell phones are challenging, right? Because there's a lot of schools of thought in terms of the usability with them, especially in today's environment. We've added policies in terms of appropriate use of cell phones. As students get older, obviously, when they head into high school, it changes and those dynamics change. The main thing that we want to ensure is that we're maintaining positive classroom dynamics and that there's a time and a place for cell phones. And it's really important as a school district that we set clear expectations and guidelines that work for everyone. It really has to be done in partnership with our community as well as the school district. So those policies are not one size fits all. We have to meet the needs of our community, but also understand that in the classroom or in life, there's a time and a place for everything. And setting those clear expectations is something that we're committed to doing.
So is that something that is in process as we speak in terms of modifying the cell phone strategy school to school, or is that something that's being more considered as a district-wide effort that goes into something like the student code of conduct or generalized rules?
Yeah, currently it's addressed in our code of conduct. The cell phone policy is something, though, that we discuss and look at and adapt each year based on the needs of our students. So it is something right now that at each school level, those expectations are laid out. But we work under a model of continuous improvement and continuous discussion. And as we progress through this school year, it's something that, again, is most likely going to come up and be discussed. But currently it's addressed within those places, and those rules and regulations around cell phones are clearly communicated to our students and families.
Dr. Dania Bazzi with us, the West Bloomfield School District Superintendent, on today's edition of the Splash Live. Keep up to date with the West Bloomfield School District all throughout the school year on WBSD.org and on Facebook at West Bloomfield Schools. Dr. Bazzi, there's a lot of new things happening that will be affecting the students day to day, but there's a lot of new things that will be really exciting in the school district in the 2024 school year. We mentioned earlier on a recent program, some of the new amenities at the high school in the football stadium there with the new scoreboard, but also these new playgrounds that have gone up at many of the elementary schools. And I'll talk about how those are going to play into expanding the sort of recreational role of the West Bloomfield School District across our community, but also adding to the educational side of things as we go back to school.
Yeah, the playgrounds that we've addressed during this summer construction are the playgrounds at Gretschko Elementary and Scotch Elementary, and that's because Doherty and Chico will eventually be new buildings that will have playgrounds that model those two sites, and the playgrounds that we've built at those sites are truly incredible, and there's a number of reasons. One, they really do address the K-5 model with us moving to that model, but it also is really inclusive. You're not going to see mulch and wood chips at these playgrounds that make it hard for all students to access the playground. You're going to see kind of 4 different sites within each of those playgrounds that's inclusive to all of our different types of learners. There's a sensory playground. We have a mimicked Apple Island that has, an elevated hill so that the students can climb up. It really is an inclusive playground and a community playground. They're still in progress, and it's really hard to keep people off of the playground because they're so excited. Kids want to play on the parts that have been completed. And I think it's something that it's going to be utilized obviously during the school day. But these are for sure going to be utilized by our community after school hours, and we're excited to be able to provide that and again, these things wouldn't be possible, without sinking funds and school bonds that the community has been so supportive of in the past. These projects are a direct result of the community support, and our students and ourselves are very thankful for that.
And that also goes back to another important topic, which is attendance, because not just on count days, but especially on those count days, which affect our school funding from the state level, that can play a big role in these sorts of projects going forward, being available through the school district and other efforts to improve the educational forefront here in Greater West Bloomfield. So as we head into this school year, how is the school district working on improving attendance in our school buildings, which we know has been a common issue for many school districts in the post-pandemic era?
We've made significant strides as it relates to attendance. Coming out of COVID, the district really wanted to focus on attendance rates across the district. We're well over 90% attendance rate in our buildings. Some buildings are close to 95% post-COVID. So attendance is something that we monitor really closely, and we work with families and parents to make sure that if there's any barriers to attendance to school, that we're providing support and guidance on how we can make sure kids are in